Welcome back to Mae Sot, Thailand. It's a pretty unusual day today because the sun has come out and it's a few days after the flooding that we had here in Mae Sot, and I wanted to go out for a quick walk and revisit some of the places that I went to during the height of the flood. This right here is the canal right beside my guest house, and I came here a couple of times in the last few days and then during the flood. And as you can see, the water has gone way down. This is still higher than it is during the dry season. I mean, this is higher than normal, but you can see it's gone way down. During the flood, I believe it reached pretty much the bottom of the bridge itself. It was right up to the top of this wall. So the water has gone down quite a bit. And here you can see a lot of the debris that the flood left behind. So it's quite a big change from what this canal looked like during the flooding. Here you can really see the difference. I guess during the flood, they opened these up completely, or at some point they must have done that, because I think they were closed when I last saw them. But the water had risen above the tops of these pipes and was sort of right up at the base there. And then here's where the water was coming through the sluice gate, and there too the water was pretty much right up to the top of that cement sluiceway. And this is the sluice gate on the other side. And here too, you can see quite a difference between now and the height of the flood. The water was pretty much up to, almost up to the very top here during the height of the flood. Now it's gone way down. And I haven't heard anything about any long-term damage to the city or even extensive damage, because the water pretty much went down very quickly right after the flood. It went up, was up for a day, and then at night it started to go down. And by the next morning, the water had already gone down to pretty much this level. And I haven't heard anything about there being a lot of ongoing damage in the city. So here's the bridge where I saw a lot of water pouring over the canal here and then flowing down this street. So the water was all the way to the top of this roadway and actually over the top of it. And here are the stairs that I came to look at a couple of times. And I believe the water had risen to like this from 2 or 3 steps from the top. But now you can see how far down you can go now on the stairs. And this whole part of the street, this was all water during the flood. This entire street was underwater, all the way up there to the left. And then down this way toward the temple. This was all basically, it looked a little bit like a river, in fact. The water was flowing quite strongly over that lip there, you know, coming onto the road and then going down the street and then even heading over here and over on this side. So this might give the best example of how much the water rose and then how much it went back down again, because the water really was all the way up to the top here. It's quite something to see this exposed wall and remember that this whole thing was underwater during the flood. And the same thing for looking back in that direction. The water was right up to the street level. And then over top of the street. I'm back at the main street again. There's the bridge and the sluiceway over there. And this street, right from one side all the way to the other, was completely underwater during the flood. And over here on this side, the water was pretty much up to my knees. And this house on stilts was completely flooded, this whole area back here. But since it's up on stilts, the house itself, you know, escaped most of the damage because the water couldn't reach the house itself. I think this was the deepest area that I encountered as I walked around. Seems to be a bit of a low dip in the road on the right side here, and the water here went up above my knees, reaching up onto my thigh. And on the side here is a small canal. And this here, you couldn't even see that there was a canal because this whole thing was full of water. You know, this was full of water right over the top. So it was basically waters. This whole area was solid water. So you couldn't even see that there was a ditch or a canal right here. But it looks like it held up okay. The sides there, I didn't even notice that before, but it's reinforced with rocks, held in place with thick fencing with wire, and it didn't fall apart. So that's good. And this was all water as I walked through here. And this parking area by the temple was also flooded. There's a section of the low canal on this side as well. And this was completely filled with water as well, to the point where you couldn't tell that there was a canal there, I don't think. The water was right up to the top and then over. And then this area in front of the police station, that was all completely underwater, as was this road ahead of me. And the main road down there was also flooded. And this section of road was all underwater as well. And one of the two main one-way streets of downtown Mae Sot, this was all kind of a river, and then the water was flowing pretty strongly from this point down here in front of the Crua Canada restaurant there on the left. But as you can see, perfectly dry now. You would have no idea that a flood had taken place here at all. And this is quite interesting. I pointed out during the flood that there was a fish pond here in front of the police station. And you can see the water kind of swirling on the surface, because there's some large fish just under the water there. And even now, this pond is quite a bit bigger than it is normally. But during the flood, you couldn't see the outline of this front area at all, because that whole parking lot was filled. This whole thing was one big lake from one side to the other. And this whole road was underwater as well, right from where I'm standing all the way to the end, and from the left to the right-hand side. It was completely flooded, leading down to right here at the main road, and this was all flooded as well. You still see that quite a few of the businesses are still closed, and they have sandbag barriers built up around the outside. You still see a lot of sandbags around Mae Sot, but they don't need them right now. And this looks very ordinary now, just a street. But again, during the flood, it was completely underwater, this whole area from one side to the other. And people were right here putting up sandbag barriers at this gate to try and block the water from going into their yard. I don't know how successful they were, but as you can see, it's not flooded down there at the moment. All the water has receded. It's interesting that with these walls on both sides, it creates a perfect channel to keep the water contained and to have it flow in that direction, just like a river. The cement walls on both sides create a riverbed almost. And this is the corner in the street leading right to my guest house, and this as well was all completely underwater. You could see the water was flowing around this S curve visibly, just like it was flowing down a river. Yeah, really weird to see it now completely dry and compare it to when this was all underwater. There's a bunch of scooters were parked up here on the road next to the canal, because that's where the canal is right there. And then all the water would have been flowing from that direction and then down this road and around this corner towards downtown. And here's the entrance to my guest house. As you can see right here from the road, it actually rises up a bit to the parking area, 7 or 8 inches maybe, to get from the road up to there. But even this whole area was underwater. So this whole parking area for the scooters, this was all underwater. And then the flood continued around the corner back to my room. But this whole area slopes uphill, so the more you go back in this direction, the lower the water was. Which worked out well for me, because here the land keeps going up and up, and that's my room just back here. So even though this whole area was underwater, right to the wall of my room, and the water continued over to here. But this is as far as the flood got. The flood got to that lip right there, and then it never got over that lip. So even though this whole area was underwater all the way out to the street, it didn't flood my room back here at all. It didn't get to the door or under the door. So that worked out well. And that's pretty much it for today's video. I just wanted to revisit some of the spots on the canal and the main street where the flooding had taken place, and just give a perspective on it today, a few days after the flood, to show what it looks like now after the water has gone down. And it has been raining pretty steadily since the days of the flood, not as heavily as during the flood, of course, but it has been raining. But today the sun came out this afternoon anyway for an hour or two. So I took advantage of that to grab the GoPro and go outside and take a look around. So there you have it, the dry Mae Sot after the flood.